it's Alexis. Today I'm going to be sharing with you everything that you will need to bring to the NICU. So I want to share just a little bit of my story before we get started, because you're probably watching this video because you were not prepared at all for this, and nobody, I should say most people who have a child that's in the NICU, you're not expecting to go there. So you have no idea what to expect, what to bring. And so I want to break that all down for you today. So my daughter was born at 36 weeks in 1 day. So she was not like crazy early or anything. I actually was born at 35 weeks and I was totally fine. I went home. So I never had any intention that we would end up in the NICU. And ends up that after she was born, she had tachypnea, and they said, you know, within a few hours, she'll probably be fine. You can come and hold her. And I get there and still not okay. And a few hours go by and the time just keeps going. And before you know it, it's a whole day later and I still haven't held my baby. And I go in, and actually my lactation specialist was the one that recommended that her and I do skin to skin. And at that moment, it's still hard. It was so hard because her little body just was not functioning properly, and I didn't know what to do. And that nurse actually recommended that my daughter go to the NICU, and I didn't know any of this was happening behind the scenes. So just a couple hours later, I was sitting in my room, and in comes two people that said, the ambulance is here to take your baby to the NICU. And in that moment, a million thoughts rushed through my mind. What do I do? What do I need? What's going on? And from that moment on, honestly, everything is just a blur. It was just like throw everything together. I ended up watching some videos like this to kind of help me, and I couldn't find anything that was super helpful. I felt like everything was just people's story. So I don't want to like bore you with that, but I want you to know that like this journey is hard and it is going to be beautiful at the end. You're gonna have such an amazing story to tell, but this journey going forward for this first little bit is hard because you have no idea what to expect, and really neither do the doctors or does anybody. So today I'm going to share with you 15 things that you absolutely need if you are headed to the NICU. So the very first thing is something that my nurse that accepted us into the NICU, she was there taking care of our daughter, and she gave me some random advice when I first walked in. And the first thing she said was to make this place feel like home. And I can't tell you how helpful this piece of advice was. Over everything that I'm going to tell you, if there is anything that you bring there, it is pieces of your home. My parents were actually in town that week that I gave birth. They came up and they made her a bunch of decorations for the room. So we had cards and little signs, and we brought stuffed animals and just all different things to make it feel like home for her. I think this is really important because you're going to be spending a lot of time here. We spent like 8 a.m. to about 11 p.m. at night all day in this room. And there's something comforting about feeling like it's home. And not only is it going to help you, but when you're feeling well, that's also going to be helping your baby in return. So just, if you don't get anything else from this video, just that. Make this space feel like your own. So now I'm going to talk about things for mom. And oh gosh, let me tell you, bring your own bag for yourself. It's super important to do that, to keep everything in. There's a lot going on in a little space in there, and just having a bag that's your own that can go with you, like even if you just got to run to the bathroom or to lunch or whatever, just having this one bag is like important, because at least where we were in, it was a semi-private room, and it was like we were jam-packed in there because there was constantly people and wires and machines and all these things. So the very first thing that you should keep in your bag is some snacks. So I had some granola bars. My husband bought me like all those little like snack size baggies of like Cheez-Its and chips, and like honestly it was junk, but it was anything that could be easy to grab in between nursing sessions, talking to doctors, changing her diaper. Like there was like a whole bunch of things, and it felt like my hours would just fly by. Okay, the next thing you're going to need is water. If you are breastfeeding especially, you're going to need to drink lots of water, and I could not believe how thirsty I was. Like I was constantly thirsty. So invest in like a water bottle that's no spill, because I just found that to be so easy. Like if I was holding her skin to skin and I needed to set the bottle like right next to me, if it tipped over, it was fine. It didn't really matter. Number 4 is breast pads. So you're probably headed to the NICU right after you give birth, and typically your milk is going to come in anywhere from like 3 to 5 days after you've given birth. And if you're like me, you'll end up getting it while you're there, and holy moly, you're leaking all over, because my baby couldn't breastfeed right away. She had a cannula in, so we literally could not breastfeed for the first like 3 to 4 days. So I was exclusively pumping, and even when I started to try to breastfeed, she had the smaller cannula in, it was like very difficult. So I still had to pump after each session, and I was leaking like all the time. So just invest in some good breast pads. I'll link my favorites below. These are washable, so you can go home and wash them. You're probably not gonna have time to do lots of laundry, so ask a friend, ask your parents if they would be willing to just do some laundry for you in between your NICU stays. Number 5 is bring a change of clothes. So in the first, like I said, 3 to 5 days, your milk's coming in, so you're going to be leaking. So you're going to want to change of clothes just in case you leak through. And not to mention, if you are starting to try to breastfeed, it's going to spill and get all over, and it's not just like, it's not like the movies tell you. The baby doesn't just hop on. It was very messy. So anyway, I would just bring an extra change of clothes. Not to mention that postpartum, you're bleeding and you just, all that kind of stuff. So just have extra pair of clothes. Tip for you though, wear anything that zips, or I would just wear like a nursing tank top with a zip up sweatshirt over the top, because it made nursing and pumping so much easier. I didn't have to like worry about like the nurses walking in and me being totally exposed, or feeling like I had to like lift this up, and it's just hard in the beginning. So anyway, do that. Number 6 is bring breast pump cleaning kit. So my nurse recommended that I go out and grab this the first day, and it made my life so much easier, because you have to clean all the little tiny parts and put them on this little drying rack, and it just made life easier. So grab one of those. The next thing that you should do is grab a pumping bra. So it's like a bra that like goes around here. It almost looks like a bandeau, but it has little slits in it, so that way you can put the breast pumps in there, especially if you're doing both sides at the same time, which I would not recommend because I have oversupply due to that. But if you do decide to do that because maybe your milk isn't coming in, this just makes your life so much easier. Number 8 is pack yourself a postpartum kit. I actually just did a whole video on everything you need to know about postpartum, so I'll link that below. But this kit is going to save you so much thought, and just having it in your bag ready to go from when you have to go to the bathroom, or whatever. Maybe you need breastfeeding stuff, maybe you need nipple cream because it's the breast pumps hurt the first little bit. Your boobs aren't ready for it. So keeping all that stuff on hand is going to help you just have an easier time in the NICU and an easier recovery as well. Number 9 is bring things to do. So bring a book, a journal, your Bible, laptop, movies, anything to just keep you busy, because as much as I said it is busy, but then you have downtimes and it's boring because you're in usually a dark room. We were in a dark room because my daughter was also jaundiced. So, they had the bright blue lights, and we just needed something to do. So we would like a lot of times watch a movie or watch a show. We would just talk sometimes. So bring things to do so that way you're not bored in those downtimes. Number 10 is bring a nursing pillow. I highly recommend bringing your nursing pillow so you can get used to using that, especially once you start breastfeeding. My NICU nurse, she was not about the boppy. I used it for a bit while I was there because it was super helpful having something to attach all her wires to while I was holding her. But I just think that having, again, those things from home that you would normally use is just going to make things that much easier for the transition to happen. Number 11 is a blanket for you, something cozy. Being in this room, it's usually a little bit I would say chillier just because it's a hospital and it's kind of cold. But I just liked having something from home. So I was also very sleep deprived because I was pumping every 3 hours in the middle of the night and, staying up for 20 minutes, and it was exhausting. So I think that, bringing that blanket and just catching some sleep in those downtimes too was really helpful. There is a lot going on, so it was hard for me to sleep. But for those of you who can sleep with a lot going on, bringing a blanket, maybe even your own pillow, would just help to make things more comfortable. So now we're going to chat about a few things that you should bring for baby, which I was actually surprised because going there, I was expecting not really to need anything for her because we're at the hospital, but I actually needed quite a bit more things than I originally thought I needed. So the very first thing that you should bring for baby is muslin swaddles, those big ones. So they're like 40 by 40, I believe. And my NICU nurses were like, these are amazing. Like, thank you for bringing them. So what they did was they took her swaddles and they would wrap the little, like, I don't know, mattress or whatever it is that she was laying on. And it just made it feel like our space. It made it feel like her room. And even though I didn't get to do those things with her that I would have done, if I had taken her home, this was just my way of being able to kind of personalize the space. And then as she was able to not be on so many wires and she wasn't hooked up to the jaundice little machine thing, she was being swaddled. And so having these huge muslin swaddles that were, again, like I said, 40 by 40 were just awesome. So yeah, bring those for sure. And if you are for some reason registering and you know that your baby's going to be a NICU baby, make sure you bring these. It's super important. The next thing that you're going to want to bring are onesies. I think it was the last 3 days my daughter was wearing onesies full time. So I didn't even know that was going to be a thing because when she got there, like they just had her in a diaper. So bring the onesies, keep them in the cabinet. Like the nurse told me, like even if they don't use them until the very end, it just makes it feel like it's your baby, it's your space, it's your things, and it's just nice to have it. Okay, now this one is actually interesting. It's hats and bows. So I had no idea that I could put anything on my child's head until I walked in one day and they had this little knit hat on that this little lady had made for her. It was the sweetest thing. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know I could bring those and let her wear them. And they're like, oh yeah, of course. So bring those things, take sweet little pictures because I think those are moments where it makes you feel like this baby is yours and you're not stressing about, all the things that are going on, and also that things aren't normal. It makes things feel more normal and like this is your baby and you get to dress them in the way that you want. So just bring those things that you had planned on them wearing in that first little bit and have it ready so that way you can, use it when you're doing skin to skin time, or even maybe if your husband gets to hold the baby for the first time, you can have that hat or bow on to take pictures with. And the very last thing that you will probably need for your baby is lotion. So it was funny that the hospital didn't supply this, at least my hospital didn't. So I had to go out and get some because where all the tape marks were from the wires being taped to her body, it was super rough and just like it needed lotion. So I went out and grabbed some of that. You'll want to make sure that it is for very sensitive skin. That was something that my NICU nurse reminded me of several times. Be sure that you're thinking about their skin because it is so incredibly sensitive because they were a preemie. Alrighty, y'all, so that is going to wrap up this video. If you have any tips of advice for NICU mamas, make sure that you comment that below. I think it's so helpful just to hear what other moms have gone through, and it makes it feel like more normal and less like you have no control of what's going on. So anyway, I hope that this video helped you. Don't forget to subscribe and check back every single Wednesday for a new video. Alrighty, y'all, I'll see you next week.